Hello everyone and welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC with myself, Alexis, Nunes, Stevie, Nicol, and look who's back after a 6-week luxury
Not
vacation.
been 6 weeks.
Sorry,
It
5
is
weeks.
Shaka Hislop, who is finally back
boy.
reporting for duty after what really felt like an eternity.
Been
And
like
Shaka,
10 days.
all jokes aside, though, we do have to spare a thought for Shaka because he was trying to get back, but his flight
so he
from
was.
Trinidad back to New England was cancelled because of the blizzard.
Tried
And
everything
Shaka,
I could.
I know how badly you wanted to be
Yes,
here
I
at
did.
work on Monday.
Hey, you could have swam. You could have swam.
I nearly did. I was so disappointed not to be here.
I know. It shows. It shows.
So sad.
Well, we're going to dig a lot deeper into exactly what happened with Shaka's flights when he was supposed to be on FC on Monday later on in the show. But first, we have to dig a lot deeper into what went on in terms of some controversial calls midweek in the Champions League. A lot that left everyone going, And if you watched the show yesterday, we discussed quite a few of them. And for that, we have to welcome in Andy Davies to bring a level head to all of these because our ex-players are fired up as usual whenever referees have to make some decisions. So, shall we get into it? We're going to start off first with what was the red card for Lloyd Kelly.
I think Lloyd's been really unfortunate, is he, on both counts, really. I think the initial the second yellow card that he originally got sent off for, I think it's a decision that it's not, is it reckless play? Yes, you can get caution for one or two things, either being a reckless play, which I don't think it is, or a disregard for the safety of the opponent, which again, he's jumping for the ball, he's landing, he didn't know where his opponent was. So I think he's been really, really unfortunate with the first yellow card. And then obviously it escalated into being an on-field review because the VAR decided when they looked at it, they thought it was actually a serious foul play challenge. So yeah, it was a really controversial decision. A really unusual process, and I think it was really difficult for people to try and understand what was actually going on. I think Don was commentating at the time, so I think Lloyd can feel a little bit aggrieved when you look at this. If you shift it forward to the serious foul play challenge that he was eventually sent off for, the VAR would have looked at the still pictures, they would have looked at the slow motion, and when you look at the still pictures, it doesn't look at the fantastic challenge, and I think that's what's led him down the path of going to eventually to the red card. But I think when you look at the overall picture, I think Lloyd can think himself really, really unfortunate.
Stevie, I know you love to mouth off at the refs back in your day, so do you agree with what Andy's saying?
I absolutely think it's a horrible decision. I mean, how anybody can actually look at it. I know Andy's talking about, well, you look at the still picture. Well, you can't judge it on the still picture. You got to judge it on what happened and the whole situation.
If you look at law in terms of what UEFA have come out with today, they come out with a statement in terms of the challenge and what the rationale for why he was sent off. And I'll just read it here. He said it was an unfair contact with the opponent on the left ankle, clearly endangering the safety of the opponent. And that in itself is a red card offence. But with UEFA, they tend to operate differently to what they do on the Premier League. Premier League, with all its faults, it does tend to operate with a level of context and a level of common sense. On UEFA, it tends to be really black and white, and that's kind of how they've reached the outcome they have. But I totally agree with you. I think it's really harsh on Lloyd Kelly, and I even think. Sorry, go on.
No, go. You can finish, Andy.
Yeah, I think the first yellow as well. I think it's the whole process. I think I'm a bit of a referee nerd, so I look at the context around the original decision, the yellow card. I don't actually think the referee was going to do anything. I think he was so focused on the aerial challenge. He didn't actually fully have a great view of the contact initially, and I don't think you can underestimate the part that the Galatasaray players played in this moment when they all rushed towards the referee when their player was on the floor. The referee clearly got some information from the assistant referee that would have given him some information in terms of where the contact was from Lloyd Kelly, and I think the referee thought, you know what, I think I might have misjudged this, and that's where he's got his yellow card from. So that was the initial part of the process, and then the next part in terms of the VAR review has gotten to the red card position, which, like I said, I just think it's harsh in terms of the overall process and outcome.
All right. Well, we saw a little.
Was that he shouldn't have gotten a card at all, Andy? Was that what you're saying?
Well, I think he's been really unfortunate. Exactly the reasons you said, Steve. I think at the end of the day, he's jumped for the ball. He's got no idea what's following.
Hold on a second, Andy. We've heard harsh.
Yeah.
We've heard unfortunate. We haven't heard is it right or wrong.
Well, listen, in the rules of UEFA, it's correct, absolutely. But in terms of what I don't believe, you put that situation in the Premier League, I think you get a completely different outcome. I don't think you get a yellow card, and I certainly don't think you get a red card. So in terms of UEFA, who kind of run their game differently to what we do in the Premier League, I think they're very comfortable with a yellow card and, well, ultimately the red card. In terms of the Premier League, I don't think you see a yellow card or a red card as an outcome.
Satisfied with that, CV?
Yes, he got there in the end.
He got there in the end. He got there in the end. Well, someone else who got there in the end is our Julien Laurence, who is finally joining us for this one. Jules, your thoughts on this one? Because, of course, it came at such a crucial moment as well for Juventus. They were fighting their way back into the game, and this must have let a lot of air out of their balloon once it happened.
Yeah, and I agree with the boys. I heard the conversation that they had. I think it's really harsh on Lloyd Kelly. I think knowing what UEFA are and what Rossetti, as a head of referees, the instructions that he's given to his referees. As soon as I saw it on the replay, I thought this is going to be a red. And to be fair, he changed from the yellow, the second yellow, to the red as well after seeing it on the screen, which I think is super harsh. But it's dangerous for them, and that's what the rule says. And they just apply the rules, and we can go into common sense and context, like Andy just did, and rightly so. But for them, they see it differently, and I think there was no other choice. There was no other going to be any other outcome than the referee giving a red card, unfortunately for them.
Listen, I get it, and I get how UEFA's law is written and the interpretation, a rather strict interpretation of it. But then that kind of spills over into all kinds of issues. So let's say, for argument's sake, hypothetically, there's a corner. Everybody's tussling in the corner. There's a possibility that with eight bodies in such a small space, that somebody falls over. Are you endangering an opponent by jumping for that header? Because you might fall on that person who somehow inadvertently fell over. So if you take the law as it's written and apply a strict interpretation, nobody's allowed to jump if anybody's within a yard of them. So just in terms of just, as was mentioned, context, common sense, this cannot be. That cannot be a foul. That cannot be an infringement of the law in any way. I think it was an awful decision.
It feels as though they've used the law to get an outcome because of the outcome. That's what they've done. You know, because when you watch it, you can clearly see Kelly has absolutely no malice, has no idea, his opponent's there, and he lands. It looks as though the VAR has looked at it, seen the outcome, gone to the rule and went, OK, I think we can apply that here. And that's what they've done.
And to that point, had the referee not given anything, as we felt he should have, there's no way UEFA would come out afterwards and say, hey, whether publicly or privately to the referee, say you should have, I think that's differently if you look at our laws. There's absolutely no way. So they've issued this statement in defense of a refereeing decision that is controversial at the very least. In my opinion, it's dead wrong. And now they found themselves in this kind of muddle in trying to defend, again, in my opinion, what is the indefensible.
Andy, what do you make of what the boys are just saying now?
I can't disagree. All I'd say, the UEFA have been really consistent over the seasons in terms of what they ask the referees and to apply law in terms and interpretations of law. I think the statement they put out this afternoon just completely backs up what they've been asking the referees to do for seasons now. And so I'm not surprised by the outcome last night, as Jules said, and I'm not surprised by their statement today. So that's basically how UEFA want their referees to operate at that level.
No, nothing. The ball is touched by the player, is kicked it away. I cannot deny that there is a contact and the guy is bleeding. That's a sport contact. And on top of it, if you consider that the foot is a little high, I think the head is a little low. So it doesn't for me say that the guy doesn't play the ball, that he has a bad conduct. He plays the ball, kicks it away, and the guy put his head. No penalty for me.
All right, Andy, well, it's pretty hard to argue with a World Cup winning defender there, but what do you make about what Frank Leboeuf had to say about this one, that maybe the head was also a little too low and made it look worse than it really was?
No, I love Frank's passion. I think the giveaway that is a penalty is the attacker's pulling out studs from his forehead, I think. I think the challenge I don't think the head from the attacker is too low. It's about waist height. The foot from the defender is high. And when you challenge like that and you make contact in any part of the body, but certainly with the head, it's absolutely a penalty kick. But I love Frank's passion and his thought. That's typical centre back. Typical centre back.
Stevie, what do you make of what Frank says, what Andy says? Because you, of course, looking at it from the defender's point of view as well.
I've gone back and forward, to be honest. The first time I saw it, I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. The second time I saw it, I changed my mind. You can't go with studs, regardless. So, referee got it right in the end.
I agree. I think that's the key descriptor here, that the studs are up. And now, listen, Frank is right. While I agree with everything Frank said, foot maybe slightly higher, just about waist height or just over, head maybe slightly low, similarly. Because of the clearance or attempted clearance is unorthodox, the studs are showing. So now all of a sudden you have studs showing at whether it's 3 feet in the air, 4 feet in the air, it doesn't matter. If you have studs showing 6 inches off the ground, you're going to get a red card. So now I don't think there was intention in the way we talk about somebody coming studs up 6 inches off the ground. But the studs are up because it's an unorthodox attempt at a clearance. And once the studs are up, even without intention, even without malice, once there's any kind of contact with an opponent, you're going to see red. The fact that it was to a head makes it even more kind of egregious, but without question, it ticked every box for a red card for me.
And Andy, just to play devil's advocate a little bit here, because, especially when you're in the box, we see players attempt bicycle kicks or scorpion kicks pretty much all the time. And if they end up scoring, they don't really get punished for it.
Yeah, no, there's no jurisdiction in law in terms of overhead kicks or bicycle kicks. The defining is does it endanger the safety of an opponent? That's how for the referee to judge in the moment. You've seen lots of goals over the years that potentially, if you're cutting out both bicycle kicks and overhead kicks, you've missed out on some great goals. So that's not what the law's about. It's about potentially endangering the safety of his opponent. And Shaka makes a really good point in terms of this situation. The defender, he misjudges the cross. He gets his feet in a mess. He knows he got an attacker coming in. He can't see the attacker, but he knows he needs to get first contact on the ball. Steve will know he can't afford to let that ball bounce, so he has to get a touch on the ball. So there's nothing intentional. We're just doing everything he can to get the ball away. And unfortunately, by playing the ball, making that contact, he's then followed through and caught the head of the attacker, and it's 100% a penalty. It can't be anything else.
All right, Jules, well, what do you make of it as well? Because, of course, this was such a big moment in this game. Monaco had a lot of the chances. I think we know now that PSG were not exactly at their best, and maybe wondering if this red card wasn't shown, if they could have lost this one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the big turning point of the game. I think I agree with everything the boys just said. There's also to add a bit of context, because like Andy said earlier, sometimes it's very important. Koulibaly had made 2 fouls already before, in between the 2 yellow cards, who are quite short in space, the 2 of them. The first one is a bad foul on Nuno Mendes. And then there's also a bit of dissent from Koulibaly towards the referee in that short space of time as well, where Koulibaly is asking the referee why he's not giving him some fouls. And you could see that Koulibaly is getting more and more frustrated, more and more tense, talking to the referee a lot. And I think that probably also plays in the fact that why he went for that ball on Hakimi, why the referee, I won't say I was expecting him to, but you must know, Andy, as a referee, when a player is trying to get out of his game, and that you could see the frustration, and you could see the guy is just like, I don't know what the word is in English, but getting in that kind of mood, really. And I think this is also one of the reasons for me of why that yellow was there and why Koulibaly made that fault. You could see as soon as he ran towards Hakimi, we were like, don't go. Too late. He went on, and that was the second yellow.
And Jules, just overall with what we said about PSG, just the fact that they kind of got here, they comparing them to how Real Madrid are going on, where none of them are really looking convincing. How concerned are you about PSG in the Champions League?
Yeah, I think they're far from their best. They really are, from especially the form that we saw in the second half of last season when they were outstanding to go all the way in the Champions League. There's obviously injuries. There was no Ousmane Dembele, for example. Yesterday, I think their midfield, and there was no Fabian Ruiz as well, to go to the midfield area where they were so dominant and so pretty outstanding, really, again, last season in terms of the rotation and what Vitinha had to do and Neves and Ruiz and the way they complement each other and all that kind of stuff. It's not there anymore. And I think that's a big part of why they're not at the same level as they were last season. I don't know if they will have it back between now and the last 16, for example, in 2 weeks' time or even later in the competition. I think it's very unlikely that they retain the title, and I think it's very hard anyway to go back-to-back in the Champions League. We know that there's only 2 teams who've done it in more than 45 years, so it was always going to be difficult, but I think the season so far has showed that they're very much up and down, and more down than up, to be fair, and I think it'd be very difficult to go much further than probably the quarterfinals.
Well, we know that the draw is coming up tomorrow. Who would you want for PSG, Jules? Would you want Hansi Flick and Barcelona? The boys were saying that that's probably exactly what Hansi Flick would not want. Or would you take Chelsea? Because I know that PSG have a bit of revenge to get on Chelsea after the Club World Cup.
Yeah, I'd take Chelsea, I think, just because Barcelona as well. Every year we have a Barca-PSG game. All the time we talk about it. We had them in the league phase too, and PSG went to Barcelona and won. And I just think it's 10 years, I think. We used to have a lot of PSG-Chelsea, by the way, in the Champions League, and then we haven't had any for 10 years. So, and it would make my life easier. I wouldn't have to travel too far for the second leg. I can just come to Paris for the first leg. It would make me super happy.
Oh, Jules, be careful what you wish for, because then you wouldn't have to travel far to potentially see your side get beat. Which, just saying, at the rate they're going.
All right, okay, don't jinx it. Thank you.
I would like PSG to win. We love PSG on their good days. All right, Andy, well, I was going to tell you that, you should get your armor on for this segment. I thought the boys were going to go at you, but I think you fared well.
A bit disappointed, really. I was expecting Steve to shout at me or at least swear at me.
We'll never got a chance.
We've been all right.
Shower him down. Stevie was asking before this if we were able to bleep out certain words he was going to say to you, but I guess
not needed.
Not needed. Everyone's on the same page.
Maybe next time, Steve.
Let's hope so.
Let's hope so. All right, well, another match that was filled with controversy, mainly from the first leg, was this one. Real Madrid up against Benfica. Los Blancos were the ones that got the job done. They won, but as we discussed, they did not win convincingly. Now, Real Madrid were missing the likes of Kylian Mbappe, and Arbeloa explained his injury after, saying this: he had to leave training yesterday, and on other days he has felt discomfort. After yesterday's training, I spoke with him, and we consulted with the medical team. We believed it was best for him to stop and recover 100% so he can return in top form and confidence without discomfort for what's ahead. Now, we know that Real Madrid, of course, in La Liga are involved in quite the title race with Barcelona. Jules, Mbappe is your boy, so when do we think he realistically will be back for Real Madrid, and how can they manage without him? Because as we said, they've not been convincing at all.
Yeah, I think the idea is that it will be rested for 10 days, which takes you to the first leg of the last 16, pretty much. 10 days to 2 weeks, that's where it takes you, which is a long time. It's a long time without him. It's a long time without his goals. It's a long time without his leadership. You've got Gonzalo Garcia, who can play there up front with Vinicius, as we saw in the game against Benfica yesterday that you mentioned, Alexis, and I expect that to be again the case in La Liga this weekend, for example, but it's a big blow. And from an Arbeloa point of view, I don't really know what happened before the game, but on Tuesday in the press conference, he said, oh yeah, he's fine, he will play, will feature when Kylian didn't finish training on Tuesday. And then something happened clearly, and I think Mbappe had been suffering from that knee injury on his left leg for quite a while now. Remember, he was flown away to Saudi Arabia for the Super Cup final when he was clearly not fit to play. He went all that way just for 10 minutes at the end where he was clearly not himself. Has been playing with pain ever since, and I think it was about time that he needed a rest. But the Arbeloa and the club wanted him to play as well, so it was difficult for him to say, no, I can't play, because it's not a too serious injury to the fact that he can damage it even more if he plays. But at some point he had to stop, and he decided that it could have cost them, I guess, with this second leg game against Benfica. It didn't. Let's hope for them that they don't lose too many points in La Liga in the 2 games that he's going to miss, but they will need him back as soon as possible for sure.
Well, as Jules said, Real Madrid will be without Kylian Mbappe for a bit, especially this weekend, as they will be in action. La Liga returns. Real Madrid actually in action on Monday against Getafe, and Barcelona in action early against Villarreal. 9:45 a.m. is when we start our coverage of that one on Saturday, so be sure to join us. All right, let's talk about this match again. Inter against Bodo Glimt, because after last season's finalists went out to the Norwegian side, Inter's coach Christian Kivu had this to say: "My players tried everything they could with all the energy they had. It's hard to find the energy when you play every 3 days. We were against a team that played 4 games in the last 3 months, all of them in the Champions League. They had a lot more energy than us." Interesting stuff to hear, Stevie, because this literally goes against everything we have learned about getting your players fit and match ready for games. So if anything, you would think that Bodo Glimt's players would be at the disadvantage.
Yep. Well, they absolutely, normally they absolutely would be. And when I say that, I'm talking generally about the last 30 minutes of games. I think because of the occasion, the size of the game, it's the Champions League, then your adrenaline, your desire. Absolutely, when you've not had that many games, can take you through, but not 90 minutes. Generally after an hour, you start to feel it. In terms of Inter, they have to have been doing something in training. I'm sorry. They had a break over Christmas. So how can you turn around and say, 8 weeks later, that your team's tired? I'm sorry. I think there's no question Kievo and his staff have probably got the training wrong. They've probably done too much. Because they're playing games, if you do too much in training, that's going to take the legs away for the games. So I would tend to look at Kievo and his staff. And as much as I'm talking about them, I think you've got to look at Bodo Glimt's manager and their staff and think what a great job they've done. And unfortunately for Inter, their staff hasn't done a particularly good job at all.
Shaka, I feel like there's just more to this result and what we saw than just a lack of energy from Inter.
Without question. And I think Christian Kivu is trying to make excuses for his team, but if you really kind of look at what he has to say about his team and Inter's own results, I'm not sure any of them hold water. First of all, you've got to give Bodo Glimt full credit for the job that they've done. I'm with Stevie. I'm sure Stevie will agree with me. As players, we always feel that you need 4 or 5 games before you're back to full fitness, before you're back to full sharpness. That's why we have preseason games. And even then, you come into the season and you do feel that it takes 4 or 5 games of meaningful competition to really be at your best. You've got Bodo Glimt now, who have been off for 3 months, have gotten the better of Atletico Madrid, of Manchester City, and now Inter Milan twice. That is credit to them and the work that they're doing. Now, added to that, their squad, shall we call it strength or quality, given their spending, is a fraction. It's less than 10% of Inter Milan squad value. So even if Bodo Glimt have more energy and can run around a whole lot more, your quality is supposed to tell the difference. That goes without saying. To that point, Inter Milan, as Stevie mentioned, had a winter break, came out of the winter break, and half a dozen games later, lost to Arsenal, who did not have a winter break. So if Christian Kivu's thinking is right, Inter Milan should have beaten Arsenal quite easily. So you can't have it both ways here, Kivu. I'm sorry. You got beaten by a far lesser squad. That you have to take on the chin. But don't try to discredit the work that Bodo Glimt have been able to do, despite a very difficult circumstance in not playing. Give them their flowers. You got beat. I'm not sure there's much excuse to that.
You know, it's not even just the physical side. The tactical side of the game. Bodo got it correct.
Twice.
Inter got it wrong.
Bodo Glimt beat them twice.
Yeah,
so it's not a one-off here.
Yeah, Bodo's not going to be able to go toe-to-toe for 90 minutes against MD because they're not in the season. So their tactics were spot on. Keep it nice and tight. You know, try and minimalise the running. Just be compact. And then you look at Inter. I mean, I don't know how many crosses they must have had, but you're going to win. You think you're
51.
going to play against this team and whip balls in and you're going to win that way? No. And they proved they couldn't.
Yeah, Jules, because when you look at it, this wasn't the only tie where Bodo Glimt has shown us some actual quality, and we just saw the stats there in terms of the difference between the budgets of both. There's over 590 millions of euros difference in both budgets. So how did this happen?
Well, there's a few reasons, and just to answer Stevie's question on the crosses, 51 crosses, Stevie, from Inter in the 90 minutes, and not many of them, obviously, went to the right players and hit the target like that way. There's a lot of explanation. I mean, Bodo Glimt, whether we agree or not on their calendar, which is obviously different, out of sync compared to the European calendar, if you want, and whether that's a good thing or not. They're the fittest team in the Champions League. They run more than anybody else, any other team. They run 7K more than Inter Milan on that game, for example. They have more sprints. They're super fit. They also have this way of playing, and we saw at times at San Siro how they move the ball so well in slightly different formation. But they are a team that have a lot of the ball when they play domestic football, and they leave the ball to the opposition when they play European football, and they can manage both game plan and both tactics really, really well. It's a very smart team, coached really well by Knudsen, who has been there for 10 years and built this squad exactly like he wanted, with the right players, with the right structure, and they do that great. They rode their luck a little bit, of course, and you have to when you play over 2 legs against a squad like Inter Milan that is much better than you. The fact that Lautaro Martinez wasn't there, no Çalhanoğlu either for Inter, also was a problem for them. But over the 2 games, Bodo Glimt were outstanding, I thought, and now they're waiting for the draw. It could be City or Sporting. I think if they draw City, they're not going to beat them over 2 legs, even if they've beaten them already in the league phase, obviously at home. If it's Sporting, I think they've got a massive chance to reach the quarterfinals.
Jules, when we see goals like that, players doing that kind of stuff, and I think with this Bodo Glimt story, the questions are going to start surfacing now about wondering why these players aren't playing in a better league.
It hasn't worked out for them, and yet coming back, he was outstanding in that game. It's actually him starting that move in a almost forced number 9 position, and then who's there to finish it. I think he can try another 99 times, probably would never score that same goal with that first touch, but it worked on that night. And again, to go back to what we said earlier, to win those kind of games against a club like Inter Milan, when you Bodo Glimt, you need everything to go your way, including those touches, including those finishes, including a great save by your goalkeeper, including the opposition to hit the post, because Inter Milan hit the post twice in the first leg and once in the second leg as well. You need all of that to go with you, and that doesn't take any credit away from your performance, but you just need the complete package to be able to almost overperform like they did over those 2 legs with the runners-up of last season. And they did. And Evian, I think, on this goal, but his whole performance was just the perfect example of what they did really well.
Maybe everywhere was just too warm for it to work for them. Maybe they just need sub-zero temperatures and a plastic pitch, as Frank was saying yesterday, for them to function. All right, well, Bodo, as Jules said, will either get City or Sporting in the next round. And there's much more talk about Bodo Glimt and the Champions League over on the latest edition of the Gab and Jules podcast. Well, Jules is one of the writers that is picking their Premier League player of the season so far over on our ESPN website. His pick, though, is not a certain Martin Odegaard, though, who has been overshadowed somewhat by Eberechi Eze. And Stevie had this to say about Odegaard's future.
Odegaard might be leaving Arsenal.
Coming next, Stevie. That's quite a statement.
Well, if you're Odegaard and you're the captain, and 18 months ago you were the guy, and all of a sudden, I know he's had a couple of injuries, but all of a sudden there's question marks whether he actually starts in the 11 because of Eze. Maybe even because of the way he's been playing, somebody else might get ahead of him as well. So if you're Odegaard, do you stick around? I don't think you do.
Jules, what do you make of what Stevie had to say about the Odegaard situation?
Yeah, I think the question has to be asked really about his place in this team, the future. He's been a bit underperforming really the last 18 months. He's still the club captain. Mikel Arteta still loves him. I think he still has a lot of credit in the bank, for sure. But it's a highly competitive squad to start with, because there's players in his own position that can play, that offer something very different to what he has as well. I don't think he will leave. I think there's still a lot of love for him and support for him at the club, especially from Arteta. I think there's a place for him in that team if he gets back to his best, which we saw not that long ago as well. So, but I think it's a good point too, and I think there's probably some fans who share what Stevie thinks. I think it's probably a right question to ask right now, because it's a key moment in this season. And I think right now, it's a very important time for Martin Odegaard, like it is for Arsenal Football Club. And then we see what the second half of the season brings. And then I think we probably have a clearer image or idea of what's going to happen in the summer at the end of the season.
Shaka, if you were Odegaard, what would you do?
Well, first of all, let me say, I don't see Odegaard leaving before the end of next season. I think over the course of the next 15 months or whatever it is between now and the end of next season, you may slowly start seeing a change of the guard to Eze playing in that position. I totally understand the sentiment. As you look at Odegaard and you start to wonder what is his big plus, what is his big upside in this Arsenal side. Still the captain, yes, but I think Declan Rice has established himself more as a leader than Martin Odegaard to this point. And then when you look at the stats between him and Eze, certainly Eze stands out, and he's been kind of stop-start, or at least Arteta has made him a little bit stop-start. But Odegaard, for me, hasn't been the player that we saw 2 years ago, and is not the player that Eze is, who would engage defenders and make you rethink, given his runs and his talent on the ball. He's not the kind of passer that maybe you saw 2 years ago, or you associate with somebody sitting in that position, like a dare I say, Kevin De Bruyne. So he doesn't scare you. In terms of his role and that position. So without that leadership aspect of it, what is Odegaard's primary role in this team, defining role in this team? I'm not sure that is there anymore. I still think that given how things are going, there won't, especially if Arsenal go on and win the title, there won't be major change in the summer. That will come a little bit slower, which is why I say I don't feel we'll be having that earnest discussion about Odegaard's future until this time next year, thinking what's he going to do come summer 2027.
Jules, up next, of course, is a London derby, Arsenal facing Chelsea. Do you feel like Odegaard will start in this one?
I think this is really interesting because he didn't start against Spurs last Sunday because he was not fully fit, just coming back from an injury. And don't forget that Eberechi Eze didn't start in that number 10 position, that right-hand side in the midfield 3 position. In the previous league game against Wolves, for example, because Bukayo Saka played there like he did when he played in the FA Cup against Wigan 3 days or 4 days before. So I don't know, you would think that with the momentum of the performance that Eze had against Spurs, that it would be him, especially if Odegaard is not fully fit yet to start a Premier League game of this caliber with the intensity and everything that is at stake in the game. Maybe. But I don't think it's a given either for Eberechi Eze to start that game. And you could see Odegaard could play there. You could see maybe something slightly different from a Mikel Arteta point of view, maybe in that midfield. My money is on Eze, and I think I'm sure the boys would agree with me. But again, we've seen a few surprises from Arteta in that position already this season.
Well, let's see if the boys do agree with you. Stevie, do you agree with Jules that your money's on Eze to start?
Well, yes, I think he should start. But as Joe said at the end there, Arteta's done some, he's thrown some wobblies at us. And so if you're Eze, you can't be totally confident. You're actually, if you're Eze, sitting waiting on that team sheet going up. Because he's been in and out as well. A couple of weeks ago, he looked frozen. Mm-hmm. Never mind Odegaard. Now, all of a sudden, he's back in pole position. So I expect Eze to start, but with Arteta, you never know. Do you think that comes from Pep? I mean, Pep used to do that all the time. I think sometimes he thinks back to what Pep did because he thinks he's surprising teams. But unfortunately, too many times, yes, you surprise the opposition, but you surprise your own team and you upset your own team as well. So if Arteta's got his try to be clever head on, then I don't know what to expect.
I'd start Eze. And I'd start Eze because of how I expect Chelsea to play. Now, given what you saw, particularly in the second leg of that Carabao Cup, where Chelsea just kind of, albeit was at Arsenal, Chelsea just kind of sat and defended. And was it at Arsenal or Stamford Bridge's second leg? Whichever way. Chelsea just sat and defended and hoped to bring a surprise in the last 15 minutes. I expect Chelsea's approach to be very much the same this time around. Again, just sit back, defend, soak pressure up, and hope to come out in the last 15 minutes. In which case, you need somebody just to shake things up a little bit in that attacking third. And Eze can be that for Arsenal when Arteta allows him to be. So for me, if I'm picking the squad, I'm picking Eze to give Chelsea a whole lot more to think about.
Well, Jules, Arsenal got a big result in the North London derby, but they did drop some points in their 2 games before that against Wolves and Brentford. So looking at this matchup now against Chelsea, could this be another potential banana skin for Mikel Arteta?
I think it's a massive game because of the momentum that they have now after that win against Tottenham last Sunday. That doesn't mean that you forget what happened against Brentford and Wolves when you dropped those points, when you were leading as well in those games, which is something that you can't really afford to do when you are in this kind of title race with a team like Manchester City. But there's that momentum. You're back at the Emirates as well, which I think is very important. And you're facing a Chelsea team that we saw against Burnley probably deserved to lose that game at Stamford Bridge against Burnley. That the week before that could only draw against Leeds again at home after being 2-0 up in that game. So it's not the best version of Chelsea right now. I think Rosinha is still finding out or trying to figure out what is the best formula for his current team. Is he Cole Palmer on the right-hand side? Where do you play Enzo? If you play Enzo as a 10, I'm not sure this is very good for Palmer. If you play Palmer as a 10, that means you play Enzo deeper. I don't think this is really good for Enzo, especially for a game like this against Arsenal. So there's a lot of question marks over what Rosinha has to do or is doing or is not doing, maybe even at Chelsea. So it's probably a good time if you're Arsenal to play Chelsea. It's probably a good time for Chelsea to play Arsenal, and in a way, having to be fully focused, a bit like what Arsenal had to do when they went away at Spurs last Sunday after the Wolves result. That is a bit similar to what Chelsea went through with the draw against Burnley at home. So it's quite similar, but Chelsea need to wake up pretty quickly. Otherwise, even that 4th and 5th place could escape them very quickly against Liverpool and United.
All right, with all that said, let's have a look at the predictions that our panel has for this one. Surprise, surprise, surprise. We all went for a win for Arsenal.
That means
Chelsea are going to win.
What that means.
Chelsea fans, we have just jinxed Arsenal for you, so you're welcome in advance. As promised, I said we were going to dig deeper into what exactly happened with these cancelled flights and all. Well, this is what Shaka Hislop texted to our boss, Steve. He said, hey, Steve, my flights back from Trinidad tomorrow have been cancelled. Oh, boo-hoo. No idea when they'll be rescheduled for just yet. I'm supposed to be on FC on Monday.
Tell you what,
Well, as punishment, we're going to show you exactly, because we have eyes and ears everywhere, let me tell you. And we got some security cam footage from Shaka's hotel
how'd you do that?
in Trinidad. I'm a woman, I can do anything, let me tell you. And here is Shaka. This is what Shaka was doing when he was so distraught that his flights were cancelled.
It does look a little upset, doesn't it?
Oh, boy. I was trying to rebook my flights. You know, it's hard work. I was on hold.
I don't see any phone there.
I was on hold with the airlines. That's what it was.
Yeah, he looks very distressed that he couldn't make it back to work.
You know, he's not of no idea. That means I'll be back when I'm ready. That's what that means.
I was trying to get back. I really was.
Oh, yeah.
It looked like it.
I really was. It's thirsty work booking flights.
Thirsty work, wasn't it?
Thirsty work booking them flights.
Did you quench your thirst?
Well, I have to keep myself hydrated.
With adult
you give it a
beverage.
good go, I know that.
I had to keep myself hydrated.
Welcome into Extra Time. Alexis alongside Stevie and a nicely tanned Shaka Hislop. Jules is also with us, and the rest of us would love to know what a vacation tastes like. But anyways, let's answer some questions. And thankfully, the first one is for Shaka, because we're putting him to work right away. Shaka, I always find that the first few days returning to work are very hard and give off a stark post-vacation depression. As you return to the chilling cold of the East Coast from Carnival in Trinidad, how do you cope with these feelings?
I try to suppress them as best I can. That works wonders. Let me see this.
I tell you what Shaka did. He came in early today, and from the crack of dawn, he has just been on his laptop looking at highlights and stats from the last 3 weeks of football, trying to prep himself for the show today.
And if you believe that, boy, do I have a piece of property to sell you.
Oh, he came in an hour.
I arrived today and I was like, I have no idea what happened to me last 2 weeks. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Ah, boy.
So that's why normally we would have a Shaka Power Rankings on Thursday, but we couldn't put him through it. Well, he actually did give us one, but we didn't really trust it, so we didn't do it.
Yeah.
You could have done a power rankings on fruit cocktails.
Yeah, or ranking adult beverages.
Ah, boy.
Yeah.
Let me just say, I had a good time. Just the record.
I'm sure.
Just the record.
Just for the record. I can't wait to unearth some photos. All right, next
Oh,
question.
no, there's none.
There's none.
I've scraped
Incognito.
I've scraped the entire interweb. There are no photos of me.
Next year you should take us all to Trinidad Carnival.
Absolutely.
I think so.
Everywhere I go, people are saying, when you bring an FC to Trinidad and Tobago.
Including Craig? They asked for Craig?
Oh, Craig somebody's got to stay here.
Yeah, I think Craig should stay here. But I think the rest of us should go. Ale Moreno would have a great time. Jules would have a great time. Stevie as well.
The same Steve who I texted that I wouldn't be available, he's the one responsible. But he's happy to put my text message on blast. But he won't take the show down to the Caribbean.
Steve, take us back down to the Caribbean.
Maybe if I send a text, maybe I need to send another text.
Yes, do that. ESPN FC in the Caribbean. We're coming. I said it today.
All right.
Next question. Stevie, should Liverpool give Virgil van Dijk and Alisson contract extensions for an extra year maybe? There's a good chance Salah and Robertson leave in the summer, and I'm sure Van Dijk and Alisson's experience and leadership would be needed.
Well, yes, I think 100% Van Dijk. However, Jules will need to help me out here. I've got Kvaratskhelia in my head. It's not that, but the goalkeeper. Mamardashvili. I'm kind of thinking...
Some people call him Kvaratskhelia, though.
Well...
Yeah.
Some people call him that.
The big Georgian.
I mean, you notice how you got it when you said Kvaratskhelia.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you can get... I think it's time for Mamardashvili to maybe step into Alisson's shoes. If you can get a decent amount of money for Alisson, because I think he still would, then I would be tempted to make that change. Because Mamardashvili is a fantastic backup, but I think he would be a fantastic number one as well. Oh. And I think Alisson is just beginning to drop a little bit in terms of 100% in terms of his feet. I think this season in particular, his feet have been horrible. He's given a lot of balls away. He's put a lot of balls out of bounds. And I don't think he's made as many big saves as we've been used to. So if you could get a decent amount of money for Alisson, I think I would move Mr. Mamardashvili up a little bit.
All right.
What about Van Dijk? Are you calling for
No, I would get
no.
I would give Van Dijk a year. Yeah.
A year?
I thought you were just throwing everybody out.
I know.
No, Van Dijk, yes, without hesitation. Alisson, you can get a decent amount of money.
Thanks for your service.
Fisherman, yeah.
Jules, what is the contract situation? What are you hearing about what could potentially happen with the likes of Salah, Robbo, Van Dijk, and Alisson?
Well, both Alisson is out of contract in June 2027, which is the same for Virgil, obviously. And I agree with Stevie in the sense that I think the club had prepared for the post-Alisson era with Mamardashvili being ready. We saw him playing when Alisson was injured a bit this season, and I think he did quite well. He will need a bit of time, obviously, to adapt and everything. But I think that's very much the plan. So I'd be surprised if there's an extension for Alisson. For Van Dijk, it's a little bit different. But I agree on Salah probably leaving this summer coming with a year left on his contract. Robertson is out of contract in the summer. I think he will go. For Virgil, it's probably a decision that you make this summer, probably maybe not this summer, but more in the January of next year, and see where he's at that time. And also if he wants to stay, because we're talking about him staying, but for all we know, he might fancy another experience somewhere, maybe going back to the Netherlands, maybe go to MLS, I don't know, whatever he wants to do. So he might not want to stay once his contract runs out as well.
All right.
Can you imagine him in MLS?
Oh, thriving.
Like, we have a cigar out.
Is that how you hold your cigars?
Yeah. The last time I had one, yeah.
What?
Very fancy.
Shaka, is that how
Why
you
are
hold?
those the fingers like that?
I know, that's what I was saying. It's a weird way to hold a cigar.
How are you supposed to hold a cigar?
Naturally,
Like, don't you just hold them like that? It's supposed to. This is
Yeah.
kind of like, who did that celebration last time? Wasn't it Dele Alli or something?
McGinn.
Yeah.
No,
Nothing like
McGinn.
that. It's nothing like that.
I don't know who holds their cigar like that. Stevie, apparently. But you know what? He's won a lot more stuff than all of us combined, so he's allowed to. Next question is for Jules. Jules, if you could sign one player for Arsenal right now, who would it be?
Wow. As much as I like Trossard, Martinelli, and even
Mbappe.
Eze, I guess, who can play on the left-hand side, I mean, I would love Kylian there, obviously,
Of course.
as you know. But in that kind of like left winger type of player, and I know he's just extended his contract at Juventus, but I would love Kenan Yildiz to play in this Arsenal team because I think he will bring something a little bit special as well. And yeah, so for now it's not possible because he signed a new deal at Juventus, but hopefully in the future at some point.
All right. You guys look lost. You'll agree with Jules. Next question. 6 of the final 16 teams for the Champions League are from the Premier League. Will the gap continue to grow between the Premier League and the rest of the top leagues in the world? And is this a bad thing for football as a whole?
Well, there's no reason why it's going to start going elsewhere because of the money. So you'd have to suggest that it will, if nothing else, it will absolutely stay the way it is. And because of the money, it might get worse for the other European sides.
But at the same time, they've had some kind of weird results. I mean, we discussed Inter Bodo Glimt earlier, right? That has got nothing to do with money, as we established. Spurs finished in the top 8. God knows how that happened. So it's just been weird in Champions League in terms of how it's all kind of come together. And I know Jules was talking about PSG earlier on the show. Similarly, they kind of limped through the group stage, dare I say, and it was only when I think they hit Liverpool in the round of 16, all of a sudden they started looking like a team that could go the distance or could go further. And
Real
all of a
Madrid
sudden
looking questionable.
I don't think there was any question that PSG were deserved winners in the end. When up until that round of 16, they didn't look like that team at all. So I just feel that this Champions League just kind of throws up some oddities that maybe money isn't the only answer for.
Jules, what do you think?
I think every season is different. Last season we only had 3 English clubs in the last 16, and yet they were still that much more powerful than anybody else, with that much more money than anybody else, and they still only had 3. And from one season to another, it can vary, but it's obviously true that they have so much more money than everybody else, that the league is better than everybody else, even if, as we've said many times on the show, we think it's an average season in the Premier League this year, but they still have just about the money and how much they can spend in both transfer windows and outspend everybody else, that gives you a huge advantage going forward.
I was just thinking though, it's not, because we've been talking about how some of the games we haven't quite enjoyed them as much.
Is that a phone ring?
I know, it sounded like it.
Jules, you have someone at your door.
This has happened before. This happened.
Somebody
What is
at the door.
Oh, it's someone at Jules'
One of the kids.
doorbell.
Sorry.
Jules,
sorry.
what time is it
I
there?
should go
10
and open
p.m.?
the door, really, but.
Leave him outside. What?
Yeah, like there was a party somewhere, apparently, I was told, so I don't know.
Oh, Jules has some 10 p.m. visitors.
Yep.
No, I was going to say, back in the day with Serie A, all the best players were there.
Yeah.
And a lot of the games weren't particularly great either. So it's not anything new that all of a sudden, where all the money is, the games are not exciting. Because I can assure you, with the old Catenaccio and all that nonsense, some of the games were tough to watch. So it's not a new thing.
All right.
All right?
Yeah.
Just letting you know,
Thank you.
before your time.
Thank you,
Bit
Stephen.
before your time, but there you go.
Jules has gone to answer the door. It's 10 p.m. visit. Look at that. Hey!
Don't take it off his camera. You snuck into the party for a little bit.
Jules is trying to
Just have
sneak into
a
the
drink and an
party.
hors d'oeuvre. Come back.
Oh, Jules.
I'll tell you what,
Hey.
it'd be great if he came back with a big lipstick on.
Let's not get him in trouble.
Sorry.
Boy.
Wow, 10 p.m. visitors.
That was good. Later than 9.
11.
11.
It's 11, even
Aye.
later. Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Questions.
I'm not asking any. I don't want to know.
Next question now. Stevie, is the ultimate frustration, especially as a manager, to get a goal to go ahead or get back in a match and then surrender a goal a minute later?
Get a goal to go ahead.
Or to get back in the match?
Oh no, the biggest frustration is going ahead and then 2 seconds later you let one in.
Yeah.
That is the yeah. I mean that drives you insane.
Kind of happened to Benfica.
Yeah, that drives you insane. Yeah, easily that one.
That one. Next question for Shaka. Shaka, who does Eddie Howe or you want? Chelsea or Barca?
I think Chelsea.
Oh.
I think Barcelona is a better team, quite simply.
Aye.
You take the lesser team. Yep.
All right. Simple as. Oh, all right. That's it for this edition of Extra Time. That's it.
I thought you had more, Alexis. All right, okay, that's time. All right, never mind. Never mind what we were going to do in a minute.
I was
Just going
told
home,
that
buddy.
Jules is having people over at 11 and we kept him too late.
A load of people outside.
Notice what he said. Oh, somebody told me there was a party going on.
Yes,
It's him.
It's him having a party.
He's got the party.
They're all standing outside like that. Let us in.
I'm going to bed.
Come on,
I'm going to bed.
Yeah, we were told. Unfortunately, the last question was for Jules, but alas, he's going to have to wonder what it is. All right, Jules,
gonna have to
go
get the
ahead.
hors d'oeuvres ready.
Enjoy your party.
Yeah,
Must be
Jules.
nice.
Yeah.
Must be nice.
Have one for me, Jules.
Yes.
Or
Have
two.
one.
Lovely.
Have a grape juice for Stevie.
Well,
Because Jules doesn't really drink adult beverages.
what's that got to do with Stevie, though?
What's that going to do with me?
He said have one for him. All right. ESPN FC, we're on every day of the week. Dan and Craig will be back tomorrow, as well as Jules once he recovers from his party.